And we're back with everyone's favorite alcoholic grizzled war veteran. This stage has honestly my favorite layout of the stages in the entire game. Not just the way you proceed, because the way you proceed is kind of weird. I'm sure they got the license to use Pizza Hut. But the way the rooms themselves are set up. They're made so it's difficult for you to go around enemies. So you kind of have to do that bobbing thing I mentioned in the first stage, is really the only way to get hits in without getting hit yourself. And of course you have limited room to do so, which makes it more challenging. This plank is one of the strongest weapons, but not the strongest weapon, or even the second strongest, but we'll see my favorite weapon soon. So the reason we're beating people up in these incredibly realistic, disgusting bathrooms is because we need to proceed. They unlock a door after we kill them. I hope I mentioned that I really like the art style, because I really like the art style. It's solid. It's great. Especially the lighting, or the pseudo-lighting. This area is kind of unique because there's not many areas where you have multiple levels to deal with. Height is never really an issue in this game, except in a couple places, and this is one of them. So I like it whenever that happens. Because you want the low ground. I guess that's the case in a lot of beat-em-ups, is that you want the low ground, because you can't punch people while they're punching at your legs. Your fists are all the way up there. There's a whole ton of weapons in whatever environment you happen to be in, like there's bottles scattered all over the place long after you run out of useful weaponry. But bottles are still better than hand-to-hand combat by far. There's also a surprising amount of ways to refill your health if you know where to look. I do really wish that the hit detection were better, because that's the only thing holding this game back, I think. I mean, it can be kind of repetitive just bobbing in and out as you hit enemies, but the varied environments kind of help with that. And we just refilled our health by beating up those soda machines, as you saw.
God, my hands. My hands are covered in blood. I don't even know if it's my blood or not. The hell with it. Doesn't matter. Let it bleed.
So this is my favorite area in the game, not just because of the amazing music, which we'll listen to for a second here. It's really good stuff. I like this because it has my favorite environment. There's multiple levels to contend with because you can step up on the benches, and in fact you have to step up on the benches to evade enemies. And there's also those poles in the center, and you can't just walk straight through them. It makes it really hard to be cheap, and I like that about it. You have to stay moving literally constantly, but you also have to pay attention to where you're moving. The layout is simple enough that it's not frustrating, but it's complex enough that you have to actually pay attention to what you're doing. There's not a lot of amazing things about this game's design, but this is pretty good. Ah, and here's my favorite weapon in the game, the baseball bat. It's the second strongest weapon in the game, deals a lot of damage, and it has a really wide range. The strongest weapon in the game has a pretty short range. This is actually the most useful place to have the baseball bat, because enemies can often block your path, and the wide range of the baseball bat means you can just kind of get them out of the way, just scoot them over, and also kill them at the same time. So this big fellow in here with suspenders, he can drink alcohol and spit out fire at us. He's one of the few ranged characters early in the game. We'll see a lot more later. He might actually be the only ranged character, until we actually run into people with guns. His fire pretty much travels all the way across the car, so the only real solution is to kill him as quickly as possible, which can be a little hard, because he tends to hang back behind the other enemies. He's not too keen on hand-to-hand combat.
There's too many of them to fight. They're all around me staring with their dead, hungry eyes, like ghouls around a corpse. The leaders of the gang walk through the press of bodies. Looks like they got first dibs of taking me apart with their bare hands.
And of course, these characters are a reference to Bebop and Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's even their names. I'm sure we've got this. I mean, these two thugs ain't got nothing on us. I'm sure we can take them out. Just gonna... Okay, so you're actually supposed to lose this fight. They have a lot of health, and it is possible to beat them, but we don't want to do that, because then we won't get the best ending.
It goes black. I feel nothing. Not even the scarce beating they administer after I'm unconscious. But I'm alive. When my eyesight returns, I find myself lying in bed, bandaged and naked, sitting in a rundown apartment, not much different from my own. It takes me a few seconds to become oriented, and I realize I'm not alone. A middle-aged woman, mid-40s perhaps, is entering the room with a bowl. I can smell the aroma from my bed. Gambles. I sit up, my sides still ache and I wince with pain. She rushes to my side to help. After my soup, I sit up feeling better and eager to find out more about my host. She lays out the whole story for me, finding my body in the alley behind her house, taking me in and nursing me to health. Apparently it's been almost 2 weeks. She's a warrior. Valkyrie come to my aid. I tell her about my history, how I came to be in her company, the kidnapping, my daughter. I don't know what I've said, but it upset her. Between sobs, she tells me her own son has gone missing. He's been missing a few weeks ago and there's been no word. She says the police have a man investigating, but nothing's come of it save for a small lead. Small lead. That's all I need. She mentions an old farmhouse in the countryside. Said the officer briefly talked about it. My joints ache, but I bear the pain like so many times before. She pleads for me to stay. Says I need to rest. I don't know what I'll find, but I asked to borrow her car. Tell her to stay behind. I couldn't bear another. Don't talk about your daughter in the past tense, old man. Can't think like that. You'll find her. And if you're lucky, help a friend too. I owe her that much.